Your body doesn't know the difference between the threat to your job and the threat to your life. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Crafting Men. I'm your host, Jared Hatch, and today we'll be talking about stress, specifically how it impacts your physical body. But before we get into that, be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Can you define stress for me? Can you give me a universally accepted definition that everyone will say, yes, that's the definition of stress? Yeah, me neither. It's one of those things that's very hard to define, but very easy to identify and recognize. I think this is part of the reason why we struggle with understanding how to have a healthy interaction with stress. Take an easy example here. Let's say you have a roller coaster. You're going to have three basic types of people on that roller coaster. You're going to have the people that are on there, hands in the air, they're screaming, they're loving every second of it. They love that rush. You're going to have another group that's also screaming, but they are white knuckling their way through it and they cannot wait to get the hell off of that ride. You're going to have a third group that's probably a little bored. Ever in between those. You see, stress is something that we talk a lot about, but we don't actually spend a lot of time defining what it is. I want to take this video to discuss specifically the impacts of stress in our bodies. Not necessarily the source of it all the time, but how our bodies are responding to stress. Stress originated as a concept several hundred years ago in engineering. It was the concept of the force required to change the shape or state of an object. I think it's pretty relevant to apply that to how we exist physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally as individuals. The way that we started talking about stress in our lives, how we do now, began in the early 1900s with a scientist by the name of Selye. Hans was up in Canada in a teaching hospital when he began to make observations of patients that had different diagnoses, different illnesses, but a common generic complaint around their diet or their sleep cycle, things of that nature. This contradicted medical understanding at the time because originally doctors were thinking you had a specific symptom, there's a specific illness. I think it's easy for us to forget how far we've come in the past few hundred years. It wasn't even 200 years ago when bleeding someone when they were sick was considered a common and accepted medical practice. So Hans Selye did some amazing things for us. He's known as the father of stress research because of those initial anecdotal observations led him to studying some lab rats and other studies that connected our hormonal responses to the fight or flight, life or death scenarios. You see, when you're in a life or death scenario and your body engages that concept of fight or flight, it shuts down and represses some signals to the brain and magnifies others. If you think about that, that means that your body has to have the ability to immediately control every system in your body. For instance, you're not going to feel hungry or tired or the need to go to the bathroom if you're in a life or death scenario. Instead, you're going to have an extreme level of focus and high level of energy to be able to navigate through the imminent threat that you're in. The way that your body does that is by releasing additional amounts of a hormone called cortisol through different adrenal glands throughout your body. Cortisol as a hormone impacts all systems in your body. But in these fight or flight scenarios, a couple of specific examples show how it does that. For instance, it redirects the effort of testosterone, where testosterone helps build your muscle mass, but it suppresses that testosterone and redirects the energy to, rather than building your muscles, to allowing you to go and do something. It manages your energy, if you will, so that way it's more efficient in getting you out of the dangerous situation. Additionally, it increases the level of sugar in your blood. Sugar is a quick source of energy. And so by doing this, again, you have the ability to either run or fight your way through this threat that you're facing. It reduces inflammation throughout your body, keeps you awake, all these types of things. These are very healthy, very needed in a life or death scenario. But over a prolonged period of time, these are very unhealthy. Reduction of testosterone means that you have the inability to focus long term, your sleep cycle will be thrown off, you will lose muscle, you have a reduced libido. All of these things are going to have a negative impact on your health and quality of life. The increase of sugar in your blood is going to increase your waistline. It's going to have an increased risk of diabetes and other chronic long-term illnesses. The inflammation that it helps fight weakens your immune system. Not being able to sleep, all kinds of problems there. You get the picture very quickly that if you have a prolonged sense of this life or death, you're in a bad and unhealthy scenario. So it's probably a good thing we don't live in a constant fight or flight mode, right? The problem here is that your body doesn't do the thinking for you, right? That's your brain's job. So if you're at work and you know there's layoffs going on, you see the HR manager and your boss making their way over to you, and you start panicking. You're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. Your body doesn't know the difference between the threat to your job and the threat to your life. It's going to process hormonally the same response as if a grizzly bear was barreling down the office hallway right at you. That's where the problems start coming in for us. We are living in scenarios where we don't have an appropriate focus or balance or purpose in our life. We have constant battles with online trolls, with social media. These are constantly bringing up the fight or the flight feelings of anxiety and anger and sometimes fear that then engage our body's hormonal reaction to start regulating our body this way. Whenever you don't feel safe, your body's going to start doing this, you see. Additionally, dietary impacts here. Eating things like sugar, simple carbs, or caffeine will have an inflammatory reaction in different organs in your body, which will then spike the need for you to have the cortisol. Part of what Selye learned was that illness can stress the body, which then engages this response, but also stress can make the body sick. See, there's an interdependent relationship here. So if you take things into your body that cause inflammation or damage your organs, you're signaling stress to your body. Likewise, if you constantly have a stressful impact in your life, you're going to weaken your body. Let's walk through an example day here to illustrate the point. Now, cortisol goes through a natural cycle. You see on the screen here, where it spikes first thing in the morning. That's what indicates your body to wake up. It's a wonderful feeling whenever it happens. Most of us don't have that happen because we wake up to our alarm clocks. So if you wake up too early in your sleep cycle or circadian cycle here, you're going to wake up before that natural healthy spike of your cortisol. That means you're going to wake up feeling groggy and tired and hungry. Your immediate reaction is going to be, I'm going to get some coffee, maybe some donuts, some energy, some food. I'm good, right? Well, you've just had caffeine, sugar, and simple carbs, which are now going to stress out parts of your body. This is going to have your cortisol slightly elevated. Then as you go throughout a stressful workday where you're anxious about your performance, or about what's happening, or if you're constantly monitoring the news and social media about everything that's happening in the world and you feel fear that's coming in that all the major news media are selling to you, you're going to increase that cortisol level, increase that stress. Now when it comes time to go to sleep, because you have an accrued level of cortisol in your system, you're not going to be able to go to sleep. And because you now can't go to sleep, your body's going to say, I'm frustrated, I'm bored, let's snack. Then you're going to have more sugars and simple carbs. This is a very destructive and very defeating cycle to be in, and it's one that's extremely common. So what do we do about this? Thankfully, I think there's some simple answers here. A couple of caveats at the beginning. I'm not a certified nutritionist. I'm not a physician. I'm a middle-aged dude that has gone through an unhealthy life cycle with my body, found a way to get it back into where I feel comfortable with it, where I feel confident with it, and I want to share some principles with you that hopefully can help you out. But then we can also look at what's next in the discussion of stress. I want to share 3 principles with you on managing a healthy body. The first principle is the dietary, your food intake. I'm not a big fan of diets. I think they're retarded. They're short-sighted. When we're talking about managing stress in a healthy body, we're talking about years and decades, not months. So when you talk about a diet, like, 6 months for this or that, it's useless. It's short-sighted, and you're going to go through the diet, and at the end of it, you're going to go right back to the lifestyle you had beforehand. And that's where we need to talk, is the lifestyle. You need to decide a lifestyle that you can sustain for a long time. And that means that not just you, but also the people you live with. If I try to live one diet and my wife tries to live another, it ain't going to work for either of us. You have to be on the same page with those you care about and those you live with to make sure that you're all supporting each other in this lifestyle approach. For the actual diet, I recommend cooking whole foods. Real food, not processed food. Cooking has some wonderful bonus benefits to it here. It's cheaper because when you go buy the raw ingredients, it's going to cost you a lot less money than buying it processed and ready in an individual meal. It's healthier because again, you can control the ingredients you're putting into it. You can control the amount of sugar or simple carbs or anything else that you might have a dietary restriction with. You can control what you eat, and you know what you're putting into your body for fuel. And it's fun. I've been married for almost half of my life, and I still love cooking with my wife, and we both enjoy teaching our children how to cook. So cooking, not only is it healthy for you, but it's a lot of fun. It can bring some health in out of the physical plane into these other emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects for you. Second principle is exercise. A common form of exercise these days is cardiovascular. Cardiovascular is good. I still care about the health of my heart and lungs, but we have to understand something. Cardiovascular is what you call a catabolic effort. It cannibalizes your muscle and fats to be able to produce energy for the sustained exercise that you're in. That means that if your goal is to maintain muscle in order to maintain a level of strength, cardiovascular efforts are counterproductive to what you're doing. You need what is called an anabolic workout, a strength-based program. I'm not a Hulk by any sense of the means. My intent is to have a healthy lifestyle that I can maintain into my old age. I have strength days 4 days a week. So I still do cardio in there. I don't work out more than 6 hours a week. You don't have to invest a huge amount of time in this to have a healthy body. I'm not a professional athlete. I have no physical requirements for my job. This is just maintaining the health of my body. Most Americans are in a very similar situation. The third principle is sleep. I have a very easy test here. Try this out. If you're not asleep within the first 15 minutes of your head hitting the pillow, something's wrong. Easy, right? Now, a lot of people, they can't fall asleep within those first 15 minutes. They find it very hard to go to sleep. I'm going to walk through a couple of steps you can do to help get there. First and foremost, easiest one, if you can't fall asleep in the first 15 minutes, try moving somewhere. Go sleep on the couch or somewhere physically different. Engaging your muscles and redirecting your thoughts, sometimes is all that's needed. If that's not working, try cutting out bright lights and food the last few hours of your day. There's a lot of filters on phones and things of that nature that allow that to still look at a screen but not tire you out. For the food aspect, every time you eat, you're going to produce sugar in your bloodstream. It's not good or bad, it's what happens. Sugar is energy, and it's a byproduct of a lot of the food that we break down. So when you eat, you're going to spike your blood sugar levels. So that means if you eat right before bedtime, then you're going to have a spike in energy and you're going to feel restless, especially if it's a sugary sweet snack. You're going to have all the more spike in energy and you're going to feel restless and uneasy, and you're not going to be able to go to sleep as quickly. So by cutting out food and bright lights for the last few hours of your day, you allow yourself to be able to sleep more easily. Finally, be patient with yourself on this one. If you're having a hard time sleeping, it didn't happen overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight. You're going to need weeks on this in order to get there. So hang in there. It's well worth it. Now, I know that I haven't talked about anything that's revelatory or earth-shattering with these principles. I think the reason why most people don't do them is twofold. One, it's not necessarily fun for people on the onset. I love it dearly now in my life because I've learned the value in it and I truly enjoy it. But it doesn't sound fun in comparison to the easy lifestyle of eating whatever you want and not necessarily exercising. I think that's part of just growing up. You have to be able to accept you need to do things in order to take care of yourself. If you want to be there to take care of other people, we as men, we care about that, right? We care about fulfilling our duty as providers and protectors. If we have not taken care of ourselves, how are we going to take care of others? Now, the second, more common and concerning point is that there are mental, emotional, or spiritual stressors that are coming through into our physical realm. Be sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell, because every Thursday I'll be releasing another video talking about this. And we're going to walk through what those stressors are, what the sources of them are, and how to avoid the stress in those realms of existence. Until then, hope you all have a great day, and stay tuned.